You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Now on the Mo Kelly Show, it's Tiffany Hobbs, the viral load. She'll speak of all the viral things social media can bring. Facebook, Insta, X, TikTok, the viral load with Tiffany Hobbs. Viral load, viral load, the viral load. Viral load with Tiffany Hobbs.
KFI, we're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. Now let's go to Tiffany Hobbs in the viral load.
Mo, you were talking about Denny's, and I'm going to attempt to do an accurate callback.
Yes, I'm still hungry now. Thanks for bringing it up again.
Let's go a little bit further into it. Have you ever used a delivery app to order from Denny's or any sort of overnight type diner to get food? Okay.
Yes, many times.
So you know what a delivery app is, right?
Yes.
You have your Uber Eats, you have your DoorDash, you have your Postmates, Grubhub, all of these really popular delivery apps that allow you the convenience of ordering food. Well, that's not the issue. Okay, convenience is something that people want. However, if you decide to order food, you might go viral for the wrong reasons, such as this unknown customer did when a photo of their food on their porch, their doorstep, went viral because in New York, this food sat out for an hour and a half is what the photographer said. And while the photographer was there, they saw a large rat, another callback to an earlier story,
right? A
large rat inspecting the meal. The meal was a Chick-fil-A bag, a soda, and there was a rat kind of rummaging through the food as it sat there waiting for the customer to retrieve it.
They got Chick-fil-A in New York? Didn't know.
They have Chick-fil-A in New York. The reason that this story is a part of the viral load is because of how popular these delivery apps are. And often when you get your food, you might not necessarily retrieve it immediately. Perhaps you're doing something else. Perhaps the food or the groceries have beaten you to the destination or your workplace, whatever it might be. If it sits out, you are making it susceptible to rats, other animals that might be in the way, coyotes, squirrels, whatever, people, whatever it is. And this is a cautionary tale that is going viral that if you order, get your food right away. Don't let it sit out, and definitely don't let it sit out in one of the 10 worst places for rats in the country.
You wouldn't think that you'd have to, or I should say you would think that you wouldn't have to say this.
You would think.
It's common sense. You wouldn't want your food just sitting out in either the elements or susceptible to someone tampering with it, getting cold, whatever.
I think people take that knowledge or that common sense for granted. There's some sort of invisible barrier of reasoning that goes into play when these delivery apps are utilized. We think that, yes, the food is going to come. It's going to be packaged fine. No one, like you said, will have tampered with it. But studies show that, unfortunately, all of that does happen, whether human tampering or the tampering from a rodent, like in this particular photo. And you can look it up online. It's all over social media. Nope. Look up the Chick-fil-A meal, rat inspecting Chick-fil-A meal.
What's up with these New York rats getting all these prime meals from pizza to Chick-fil-A? They're eating well.
Have you seen New York rats? They are a
huge.
Whole other specimen unto themselves. Second story is equally, if not more so, as disgusting. And Claudine spoke about this time of year kind of being a lull for people when it comes to gym activity. Well, if you should find yourself in a public gym, whether 24-Hour Fitness, LA Fitness, Crunch, name your gym du jour. Planet Fitness as well, Mo. You'll be saddened to know that consumer research group FitRated conducted an investigation into gym cleanliness. And what did they find? Well, they found that gym equipment harbors significant bacteria. Okay.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. During COVID, if you used gym equipment, you saw a plethora of disinfectant items there, whether sprays or wipes, so that you could make sure that you are keeping that area clean. However, not only does gym equipment harbor significant bacteria, but the study found that free weights, so your hand weights, your 5 pound, what are they called? Barbells or whatever they may be.
Dumbbells,
barbells, whatever the case. Whatever. I go to the gym, I promise. They contain 362 times more bacteria than a toilet seat.
That may sound strange, but intellectually, I can understand that, if only because there are more people coming into physical contact with those barbells each and every day, as opposed to booties on toilet seats, which is cleaned thoroughly, presumably at least once a day. I don't think the weights are cleaned consistently.
And that's what I guess Fit Rated and others have been finding, that we think, again, we take for granted the cleanliness of these public spaces. You might not, but I know I have in my gym usage, just thought, hey, pick up a dumbbell and use it without necessarily wiping it down. That was pre-COVID. COVID kind of primed me for disinfecting things. But prior to that, and even since, I was lax. And a lot of people are. Not only the dumbbells of free weights, but exercise bikes were said to have 39 times more bacteria than a reusable canteen tray.
I wonder what gym showers, their level of bacteria
Oh,
is.
shudder.
Don't ever walk in there without shower shoes. That's all I'm saying.
The things I've heard in gym showers, the snot rockets being blown,
Urination,
the other things that we can't
other
say
stuff,
on
right.
air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a co-ed shower at that. But despite these findings, health experts do note that the risk of infection by catching something from one of these public items is low.
Whatever. Can't be both. It can't be high bacteria and low infection.
Well, that's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying. I know.
When you go back to your gym or wherever you might go, Mo, will you be disinfecting the weights before you use them?
I don't usually go to a gym for that reason, and I'm trying to get over all that before I go to Iconics and go to one of Claudine's classes. But I've never, ever showered at a fitness place for that reason. And I'm really, really skittish about any of the facilities. Like, I've never gone in the pool, never used a shower or the sauna.
The things you see.
Yeah. I come in, or back in the day, I would come in, I do my work, and I get out. I'm not trying to do anything which has to do with hygiene there. No.
The thing that scares me is when you have these sorts of studies about cleanliness, it makes you paranoid. It makes you think of other places that are commonly used, common spaces. I'm looking around the studio at microphones.
You can't talk about that in radio.
And just,
it's very difficult to work in radio as a germaphobe.
Yeah.
And we know some. I'm just saying, you have to get over that real quick here. The shared buttons and computers and microphones and tables, surfaces.
Everything.
Yeah, headphones, all the kind of stuff.
Doorknobs, all of the things. We have time for one more quick story, or should we wait?
Let's wait.
All right.
Because I know there's going to be a little bit more to this story.
Yeah, it has to do with Milli Vanilli. That's the tease.
Baby. You think this generation remembers Milli Vanilli?
Well, that's what the story has to do with.
That'll be the tease then.
Yeah, there you go.
It's the Viral Load, Part 1, later with Mo Kelly. KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Now it's time for the Viral Load with Tiffany. Live on KFI's Later with Mo Kelly. She'll talk about the top hits on social media. The Viral Load with Tiffany Hobbs.
KFI, Mo Kelly, Tiffany Hobbs, live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Let's continue with the Viral Load.
Back 35 years ago, Milli Vanilli, famed but disgraced pop group from Germany, hit the scene. They had 3 very popular songs that charted, one even winning a Grammy. They were the biggest act at the time until controversy basically took them down. And what was the controversy?
They weren't singing any of the music.
they weren't singing any of the music.
I remember that well. I was working in the industry.
Well, you would think that that story would kind of live and die 35 years ago. We know about it if you lived during that time, but it's talked about kind of tongue in cheek and made fun of. Their music isn't popular today, nor is it relevant. You'd be hard pressed to find it on the radio, of course. Well, that has changed because with the popularity of the new Netflix series Monsters, which chronicles the Eric and Lyle Menendez story, and with all of the interest in their story as it is unfolding today, with the reformatting of their case, the possible resentencing, the interest in it, Milli Vanilli is back on the scene. And why? What's the connection between Milli Vanilli and Eric and Lyle Menendez? Well, 35 years ago when they were on trial, the boys, the young men, it was noted that they were huge fans of Milli Vanilli, that they often listened to their songs, that they would sing their songs when they were together. It became a big part of the case. And that has been reintroduced in Monsters, the Netflix story about Eric and Lyle Menendez, where in multiple scenes throughout the series, they are singing and playing Milli Vanilli's 3 biggest hits. That then exposes Milli Vanilli's music to a new audience. And that is exactly what's happening and what has gone viral. Milli Vanilli is now part of the current public lexicon because they are charting on Billboard's TikTok chart.
Wait. There's a TikTok chart?
There's a Billboard.
There's a TikTok music chart.
Can you believe it? That's what surprised me most.
I didn't know that. No.
Billboard has its own TikTok chart where Milli Vanilli's 3 top songs, Blame It on the Rain. What are the other 2?
Girl, You Know It's True.
Girl, You Know It's True. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I Love You. And then the other one, which is kind of the Girl, I'm Gonna Miss You. That's the one. Girl, I'm Gonna Miss You. All 3 of those songs have charted on Billboard's TikTok charts. They are hyper popular. And Tawala can even speak to the virality of what's going on with Milli Vanilli.
Now I get where my 14-year-old daughter got it from, because she was talking about watching the Monster docuseries, whatever, on Netflix. And she has nonstop for the past 2 weeks had Milli Vanilli in her head. And this group is brand new to her. She swears to me that this group has invented music. They are
like, Daddy, have you heard this before?
Have you ever heard of them? Yeah. Oh my God, Daddy, you're telling me that you had music like this when I thought all the music that you had was blah, 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 hip hop and all that. This music is phenomenal. She loves Milli Vanilli. Blame It on the Rain. It is nonstop in her head. It lives in her head rent free.
She is 14.
Yes.
This is completely new to her.
She's downloaded the damn song.
Wait, does she know the history of the group? And
I told her about that. She said, yes, Daddy, I know. I know how to research and look up a group. I know that they wasn't actually singing, but that doesn't deny the fact that these songs are hits. They are hits then, they're hits now.
Wow. Doesn't matter to her that they weren't singing. It just matters what they came out with, what was released, that she loves. She's obsessed.
She thought they were fly. I'm like, get the fuck.
Did she hear how everything turned out? How one killed himself?
Yes, she knows. And because I laughed about that, and I said their whackness was so bad it drove one of them to their death. And she said, Daddy, you are not funny at all. You are wrong. You're going to pay for
No, but that's part of the true story.
It's true.
Because the ridicule was so much, because for those who don't know, they tried to go legit after that as a group, and then as solo artists received varying levels of success and ridicule. And one, Fab Morvan, was to the point where he took his own life. It was probably a combination of other things, but still.
I mean, the drugs definitely played a hardcore role in that. It wasn't because he was being bullied online.
I don't know if it was Rob or Fab, one of them.
Yeah, it was one of
the
them.
light eyes.
Yes. And there was no social media then, so it wasn't that he was being bullied online.
Because of your daughter and her generation, and maybe even younger, and just that surrounding area or age group, their streams, Milli Vanilli's entire catalog, their streams have increased 114% since the release of Monsters. So the remaining Milli Vanilli, the remaining member, is I don't know what he owns as far as stake in the music, but he might be seeing a bit of a payday.
Now, whoever owns, we talk about the royalties, the songwriter royalties, the publishing, those people will get paid. Milli Vanilli, this is a perfect example. They didn't write the songs. They didn't even really perform the songs. I don't think they have any connection to the royalties because they didn't perform them. They weren't a part of the recording master. They didn't lend their voices, so they have no legal claim to any of it.
Wow. So you're just watching yourself essentially blow up again, have fame again, but there's nothing you can do to really capitalize on it.
I don't think they would get 1 cent of that.
Yeah, they only got performing royalties, and that's when they performed, and I believe that they had to share that with the actual singers of the song.
They would have to, because
all they were
people
doing
on the
was
master,
dancing.
they were just, they were basically backup dancers.
There you go. Well, they're not going anyway anytime soon, as the series is very popular. So that's that one. 2 more stories really quick. There's a ghost trend on TikTok. You know, that old school costume, Halloween costume with the white sheet. You poke holes or cut holes in it for your eyes, put some sunglasses on.
Burn a cross, right.
A little less sorted.
Don't you dare laugh at my jokes and not give me a rim shot, Stefan. Thank you. Now proceed.
Not that
Tiffany.
costume. The more sanitized costume, G-rated, Ghost. A very bootleg ghost costume. Well, it is simple. And it is back. It comes back every year. It's back this year. It's Halloween time, spooky season. And not only are people wearing that costume, the white sheets. If you see your white sheets disappearing, check and see what's going on. They might be creating costumes or other costumes.
You have white sheets? We don't keep white sheets.
I don't keep white sheets, but apparently someone does. And they're contributing to this resurgence in the bootleg, simplistic ghost costume. And it is viral because people are using this costume to put on elaborate photo shoots with kind of mood lighting and that foggy vintage kind of feel to the photos. And it's all a part of the ghost aesthetic. It is called the ghost trend. And they pair these photos with a song called Oklahoma.
Like the musical?
Not the musical. It's something else. Separate word, like the exclamation of OH. And then Oklahoma is a separate word. But there's something about that pairing, the entire imagery that has gone viral, and it is everywhere. So if you see that ghost costume, that's why people are probably going to be wanting to create content videos. The last story has to do with Meta, who has decided to take on sextortion. The idea of extortion by using sexual images or blackmail or
like
just
revenge porn
type stuff. Meta has released 5 steps for individuals facing online sextortion on social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it may be. Number 1, Meta says, take control. Stop responding. And do not pay if someone tries to extort you for images. Number 2, tell someone you trust, like a close friend, teacher, or parent. Number 3, report and block. Report and block. Meta says, tell on them. Let Meta know, whatever the social media app, that this is what's happening to you. Report the profile and block them. Do not engage. Number 4, submit a case with Take It Down. Take It Down is its own investigative app that aims to, again, combat online bullying and sextortion. And then lastly, report manipulated or AI generated content. So if you have content floating out there around you that you did not participate in, that has been created by artificial intelligence or manipulated by it, report it so that it can be taken down. And I brought this up because I've reported profiles before that I've seen, and Meta won't take anything down.
It doesn't matter if you report anything. It takes forever to get back to you. So if they do have AI revenge porn images, you may not hear from them for a month.
And when you do, you'll likely get the response that I've gotten, which hasn't been about myself.
Violate our community standards.
I've seen people doing things that are completely inappropriate, reported them, and they told me there was nothing wrong. But it's viral. It's the viral load. That's the viral load.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And hundreds of female golfers have complained about the participation of Scottish-born transgender player Hailey Davidson in the penultimate stage of the LPGA Tour's qualifying competition, where you can get on the tour if you get a certain score. Davidson is 31 years old and originally from, I think it's pronounced Ayrshire, but now based in Florida, and has said that her intention is to, quote, make Scotland proud, close quote, by earning a tour card on the women's premier circuit.
Oh, it's Ayrshire.
Ayrshire? Okay, thank you. She progressed through August's first stage of Q School, and Q School is the school for qualifying for your tour card. But the former player was a U.S. male college team member and was also accused by changing genders of acting unfairly. This is not difficult. I know this is an ongoing debate, and I know emotions can run high, but aside from this particular instance of a transgender woman playing with biologically, I guess they call it immutable sex, women, this is real simple. There's sex and there's gender. Sex is how you were born, the science of it all, the biology of it all. Gender is our societal construct of how we present ourselves, how we group ourselves. But that is different from how you were born biologically, chromosomes, what have you. When you are on a competitive field, first and foremost, it's about making sure that competitive field is level. It's a level playing field, level competition. The whole reason of dividing the sexes, which is different from dividing the genders, dividing the sexes was to ensure that there was a level competitive playing field. There is a reason why in boxing you have different weight classes, because the strength matters. There is a reason why we have an NBA and a WNBA, and this is not about one sex being superior to another. It's about one sex being physically stronger than another. And when you're talking about sports, you're talking about strength. You are talking about physical and physiological differences which have to do with sex. And they are competitive advantages when you're talking about sports, which is separated by gender. I don't have anything against someone being transgender. How you wish to live your life is how you wish to live your life. But in being transgender, you've made a decision to present yourself as a different gender than what you would have normally become if you were to stay with your biological sex, if that makes any sense. And if my terminology is a little clunky, excuse me, but you know where I'm going with this. You've made a decision to change how you present yourself in the societal construct of gender. But your immutable sex, your chromosomes, the physiology has not changed. If I tomorrow decided for whatever reason, and I'm not saying this to mock anyone, but if I tomorrow decided to present myself as a woman and live my life as a woman, I am doing so under the societal construct of gender and how we perceive the roles and the clothing styles and the attributes of a woman. But my sex has not changed. The amount of testosterone that my body is producing has not changed, with the exception of me taking drugs to somehow impact that. My physiology has not changed. My hormones have not changed. This is something which is not all that difficult to solve. As long as we are going to separate our sports by sex, which is different from separating them by gender, then you can't have biologically born men playing against biologically born women. You are then mixing the sexes in these sports, and you're then awarding a competitive advantage to those. Why is it you don't see women who transition to becoming men performing on the men's side? Far too often we have men who have become transgender going from male to female, then performing, I should say competing on the female side. And invariably, they have a competitive advantage. Imagine that. And they are then able to compete at the highest levels. Imagine that. Why? Because their sex has not changed. And they still get to keep all the competitive advantage that their sex has given them. I would have had more respect, and I mean this seriously, I would have had more respect if the transgender woman would have stayed and competed in the same sex that she was originally against the male golfers, because competitively speaking, it's still a level playing field. Because sports, at its foundation, it's about equal competition. All things being equal, who is the most talented, the most able, the most successful at that sport, at its foundation. And the moment you give yourself a competitive advantage, you don't have fair competition. I can't in good conscience say, well, it's okay if you want to be transgender and also compete in your new gender sport where you know going in you have a competitive advantage. I don't care if it's swimming. I don't care if it's golf. I don't care if it's boxing. I don't care if it's MMA. And we've had examples of all of those sports where you've had someone transgender, a transgender woman who is someone who was born biologically male, competing against biologically female women. And you can't have that as long as you're talking about fair competition. It's not a difficult conversation, and you can have it without being disrespectful to transgender people. You just have to be honest enough to be able to call it for what it is. We're talking about sports. We're not talking about moving through society. Two different things. If you wish to live your life as the opposite gender, by all means, live your truth. But when it comes to competition, that's a different discussion.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Later.
KFI, Later with Mo Kelly, live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Be sure to check out the podcast on the iHeartRadio app or Apple, iTunes, where else? Spotify, Spreaker, wherever you podcast addict, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, you can find Later with Mo Kelly. And before we close out the show tonight, I want to tell you the latest in relation to Roman Polanski, the famous film director. He's 91 years old now. And believe it or not, he no longer faces a trial over this alleged sexual assault on a minor back in 1973 because a settlement was reached today. If you don't know the history, Polanski fled the U.S. decades ago after admitting to the statutory rape of a 13-year-old in a plea bargain back in 1977, about 47 years ago. Polanski did serve 42 days in jail, then fled the country when it appeared a judge was reconsidering his release. The latest was that Polanski had been, a latest case against Polanski had been filed last year and was due in a civil court here in L.A. in August of 2025, but has been withdrawn because of this settlement. And I've long known of this story. It's usually been referred to for any number of reasons as we talked about the evolution of the Me Too movement and what has happened in the entertainment industry, specifically in the film industry, before anyone knew Harvey Weinstein's name, before there were any allegations of Kevin Spacey. Roman Polanski was, I would say, the biggest name where people would point to as far as someone who managed to evade justice. Now, Mark, you have known this story. You've probably covered it. You are a cinephile, so you've known about it. How do you think the perception of Polanski in this case has evolved over the decades?
Well, okay, so the original girl that he was alleged to have raped was a 13-year-old. This is a different girl who was apparently 16 when this happened. So it's easy to get these cases confused. Two separate things here. And you had mentioned he had a plea deal in place, and it's my understanding that he had agreed to the plea deal and then it was changed on him, and that's when he fled. And I would have to, I haven't been into this in a while. By the way, the book that I mentioned earlier, I can tell you it's called Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s. And that and the Easy Riders and Raging Bulls and a lot of books that covered that period touch on this because he knew everybody in Hollywood at the time. He knew, Nicholson and that whole group of new Hollywood filmmakers. So this was a seismic deal that happened back in the early 70s.
Do you think, though, he would be welcomed by Hollywood at this point, given the time that we live in?
I don't know. There's always been things like that in Hollywood that are polarizing, whether it's Elia Kazan ratting people out. Some people wouldn't give him a standing ovation. Other people would work with him in a heartbeat. Same with Polanski. I didn't realize he was 91. I mean, I guess I should have put the numbers together because he's a Holocaust survivor. And I think, you want to show some grace in some situations where there's nuance. And he had just been through the horrific murder of his wife and unborn child right before all this stuff happened. But there's no way you can defend what he's alleged to have done.
No, not defend, but I wonder if Hollywood, the industry, the Academy would welcome him home in some way, or at least not further ban him. I don't know. Was he even officially banned?
Well, he fled.
No, but I'm saying like in the way that Will Smith was not allowed to attend an Academy Awards. I don't think that was done with Roman Polanski.
I don't think so either. But you know as well as I do how craven people are when it comes to... Well, okay, here's another example. Woody Allen. Now, The jury is still 100% out on allegations against him. Wherever you fall on that, depends on what you read. That's your business. But there are people who, as a matter of principle, won't work with him. And there are people who absolutely 100% would do anything he asked them to do. That's just the way Hollywood's always been.
I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know if that makes our point or hurts it as far as, I have to look at this through the lens of, I don't know if this deal happens without what has been going on with the Me Too movement.
I don't know. You and I are in a business where you have to be friendly with people who you vehemently disagree with on a lot of stuff because it's not a real big industry.
Right.
And so if you alienate everybody, nobody wants to work with you. I'm also in comics. It's the same in comics. If you have a reputation as a jerk, you can be on time, you can make your deadlines, and you can do good work. But if people don't want to work with you, you're not going to work. So I think they're all very similar in that respect.
I think it's actually smaller than that. You don't have to alienate a lot of people. You can just alienate the right one person.
Oh, that's true too.
And your name will be mud after that point. I mean, there's just certain understood rules, unstated laws in this business where if you make too much noise, I'm just being honest, it's not that you would be banned. It's not like you would be blackballed, but people would be reticent to work with you because they don't want any blowback from anyone else that they may be friends with or have relationships with.
Sure. We all have our own ethical lines. I mean, without mentioning specific names, and you and I do different things, by the way. You have mentioned to me that you're friendly and have done interviews and guest shots with people who, I wouldn't talk to or break bread with.
Right.
But you have your reasons for doing that, and I don't judge you for that. But, I mean, it's all an individual choice.
Yeah. And I said long ago, to work in entertainment, you will have to ask yourself where that line is going to be. There are people that I have interviewed that I will never interview again because they have done X, Y, or Z since that time, and I can't in good conscience open the studio back up to that person.
Yeah, I think I'm a little more severe than most people. I remember I did a profile of a pretty well-known talk show host, and I'm not going to say his name because I just don't want the headache. But it was a fairly combative piece because I found the things that he said to be morally repugnant. But he had a good time in the interview, and he had somebody invite me over to his house for Sunday dinner after the interview ran. And I said, tell him I plan to have a hangover that day, okay?
Yeah, I completely understand that. There are people, and I get pushback from friends and families like, why did you have so-and-so on? Why did you give that person a platform? Why are you platforming ignorance or whatever their issue is with that person? I said, well, one, I interview newsmakers, and if someone is a newsmaker, more times than not, I'm going to err on the side of it is a news issue and item, and that person is notable, and it's worthy of discussion. And there's some people it's like, I don't think that person is credible, regardless of whether they're in the news or not. And I won't interview that person. I can give names, but I think that kind of distracts from the point here that we all have to make these ongoing discussions and decisions about who we will and will not engage. And going back to Polanski, people are going to have to make those same decisions in the very near future, because if the cases are closed, then he may come sniffing back around Hollywood.
Well, if he's 91 years old, I don't think we're going to have to worry about that indefinitely. But I mean, it's one of those what would you do situations. Would you, Mo, work with Polanski knowing what you know?
How about this? Since I am a person who interviews newsmakers, yes, I would interview him because I would want to hear his side of the story, because it is now a news item. But beyond that, I wouldn't talk to him.
That makes sense. That's a fair answer. The judges will accept that answer.
Thank you, sir. KFI AM 640, we're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
If you didn't like that opinion, keep listening. We've got a few more.
KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live